Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the AECT-OTP membership meeting. I'm Tim Boylo, the current OTP Division President, and have just a few housekeeping points to cover for our meeting today. This is our sixth and final scheduled member meeting before the fall convention. We may schedule a meeting in September or October if needed to aid in preparation for the national convention in November. Typically, we do not meet during the summertime, but once again, we will schedule a meeting in September or October if we have additional business that we need to cover in preparation for the national convention. As always, the member meetings are conducted via Zoom and will be recorded and shared on the Facebook group page for AECT-OTP. The OTP member meetings are always open to all division members. However, division board members are expected to attend, and we try to get everyone together. We're not going to be taking any votes today, so it really isn't going to impact us. To assist in tracking meeting attendance, and it looks like we have a fairly small group today, but if you will, just go into the chat and type your name so we have a record of it at some point. And also, here again, we do have a fairly small group this morning. I don't know that it would be an issue, but to improve the audio of the meeting recording, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking, and that will cut down on some of the background noise and reverb that we sometimes see. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the OTP board membership updates. I don't actually have any updates. This has been pretty static since January, but I will refer you to the AECT.org website for a list of the current OTP division board members for the 2016-2017 term if you need that information. Next on the agenda, we have the OTP AECT board update, and Sharon is joining us. This is the update that our AECT OTP member to the executive board usually provides a report out. Sharon was traveling and asked me if I would sit in for her this week, in fact, June 21st. So I do have some notes for that. And, you know, Sharon and I were chatting a few moments ago, and I said I really didn't understand half of what was being talked about. So if I say something stupid, please jump in and let me know. But here's what I got. And this was kind of crazy. I hadn't heard this before, but AECT apparently is planning a trip to Cuba, an education trip. They're currently working through the State Department to get clearance for this. I don't have timing. They're also trying to determine pricing, and according to Phil Harris, they're trying to keep it under $5,000 with a Miami departure. I don't think I'll be on this trip when it comes up, but if you do have questions on that or you'd like more information, you can contact Brad Hokinson, and I'm sure he can fill you in.
Okay, Tim, Tim.
Yeah, do you have anything on that one?
Just a little bit of context for folks. AECT was approached by an academic travel organization and has partnered with them to organize various educational and cultural trips to Cuba, and other locations. Cuba is the first one. So we're not talking about a lie on the beach and sipping margaritas type of vacation. It's a cultural vacation in partnership with the Ministry of Education in Cuba. Cuba is a lot of universities have already partnered with similar organizations and are organizing trips to places where you normally would not go on vacation. The most recent example of a place I wouldn't be going to is North Korea, but some of these organizations sponsor educational trips to out-of-the-way places. The trip to Cuba is very expensive for the simple reason that there isn't much modern infrastructure. So there are only 1 or 2 hotels that Americans, for example, would deem acceptable and safe. And there is extra security required, so which is why a trip to places like Cuba and North Korea, etc., are really off the charts in terms of pricing. That said, you get a lot of face time with the Ministry of Education, particularly for those who are interested in K-12 education. This would be a very, very good trip in learning about how the elementary and high schools are structured and the degree of authority that teachers have would make a U.S. teacher quite jealous. Now, I'm not in K-12, so the trip didn't interest me, but it certainly is a fascinating opportunity for those who are interested. In terms of technology, you'll see that, you know, they don't have a whole lot, but they are eager to learn, eager to acquire. And this may be one of the last opportunities to take a trip like that, depending on what the administration does with the trips to Cuba. But going forward, the partnership will have trips to other places, probably not as dangerous as North Korea or as controversial as Cuba, but certainly they are aligned with the various ministries of education of the countries in question.
Oh, that's excellent. Thanks for that, Sharon. And to your point, yeah, with the current administration, I mean, there are changes being made in terms of the relationships with Cuba, and my understanding is that it would be from an educational standpoint only. But it's great to hear that the AECT as an international organization is looking into these kinds of opportunities. I could certainly see benefit and potential in trips to like China or Thailand or other areas as well. So it's good stuff. The next one that I had from the executive board was and you should have seen the announcement for this. We do have approval of the Learning Engagement Special Interest Group. I guess it's a special interest group as opposed to a special forum. And this is for learning engagement. And I'm saying this because I got an email yesterday, I think, that talked about that. The current special interest group status right now applies to the OE textbook initiative, as well as the badging group that's being administered through TED. So apparently that we do have the ability to form new special interest groups within AECT if that's something that our members see benefit for.
Well, one other thing, because it's been some time since AECT has been involved with special interest groups. We're still working on the administrivia aspect of it. So there's some more documentation or structures to put in place before the groups actually can jump in and start doing what it is that they want to do. But yes, we are moving in that direction, but hopefully not to the extremes of having multiple special interest groups the way that AERA does, because that becomes quite unwieldy and it will reduce the role of the divisions, which have been essential to AECT.
Yeah, and I think that was something that was talked about, Sharon, as being very important, and maybe that's looking at the distinction between a special interest group versus a special interest forum, if there are differences, because clearly we don't want to interfere with the work that's occurring within the divisions. Just a quick reminder: the pre-registration for the fall convention. Apparently, we had a record. We had higher numbers of pre-registration earlier than we ever have before. And of course, if you haven't already registered, there's still time, and we encourage everyone to register for the fall convention as well as the summer leadership conference if that's something that fits within your schedule. And of course, both of these events will be in Jacksonville. Speaking of summer leadership, the format will be the same as last year, and that is that the half a day of the first day will be reserved for the executive board meeting, and everyone, I've attended these before, visitors, any member of AECT is welcome to attend the board meeting. You're just not part of the conversation or voting on any issues or motions that come to the floor. And then the second half of the day will be for division planning. And Sharon, I assume that you will be in Jacksonville for leadership?
Yes, I will, from the very beginning to the very end.
Yep. And Nancy Hastings is also going to be there. She's actually taking a group of students in a mentoring. It's an Emerge initiative from University of West Florida. Unfortunately, I will not be able to make it to leadership this year. I have other commitments, and it was either go to leadership or face marital discourse for missing my wife's family reunion. So I opted to maintain harmony in the house, and so I will I will not be in Jacksonville, at least in July. I will be there, of course, in November. We have dates, let's see, for the 2018 board leadership meetings and research symposium. This will be July 18th of 2018. And that, as well as the national convention in October, will be in Kansas City this year. So I can't recall, I've not been to Kansas City. I think we've been there before, haven't we, Sharon?
Many years ago.
Okay.
And it's Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas City, Kansas.
Right.
Yeah, for those of us on the coast who don't know the difference, you know, there is a difference. Kansas City, Missouri is a tad better than Kansas City, Kansas.
And the only thing I know about Kansas City is there's great barbecue. So there you have it.
There's great barbecue, but it's not as energetic or diverse as St. Louis.
Well, I kind of like Jacksonville myself, but, you know, not for the barbecue, but just for the sun and, you know, but anyway, any place but Vegas, right?
Well, Vegas is nice if you're in the right facility. We just don't have the leverage to go to the decent places. Yeah,
we don't have the pull, so to speak. This will come out. This would be of interest. And I saw Susan Jenden is in this meeting, we'll be hearing from her a little bit later on. She's co-chair of the OTP YouTube committee. But what was interesting at the executive board meeting was that there was a brief discussion of AECT's social media policy or the lack thereof. And, you know, we've had questions on this going forward in terms of trying to get guidelines, policies, and so forth. And what I took away from the discussion on Wednesday is that our social media policy essentially rests with the divisions and their members. So what I mean by that is most of the divisions, as you know, all have Facebook group pages set up. The members are using Twitter in various forms. I don't really see much presence in LinkedIn, but this is something that is on the radar. It is something that we need further clarification on. But in the meantime, you know, it's the members that within the divisions themselves are pretty much using social media in whatever way makes the most sense in developing and maintaining a learning community. And I don't know if you have any historical perspective or anything that you'd add to that, Sharon?
Part of this discussion arose not from people saying, why don't we have social media, but from some of the, shall we say, veteran members of AECT who are somewhat fearful of social media based upon the high profile cases of abuse and bullying and so forth. And we're wondering if we needed to have a policy. That said, it became very clear in our discussions that there was a very dramatic difference in mindset between the AECT veterans and those who were, shall we say, newer to the party. At one point, there was a thought of having, well, maybe you have someone younger to sort of monitor social media. But again, since this is a voluntary organization, that kind of effort, nobody's going to do that for free. I mean, Facebook pays people a lot of money to do that kind of thing, as does LinkedIn, as does Twitter, and so forth. So at this point, we have left it and probably will continue to leave it to the various divisions to figure out which outlets best serve their needs and their purpose, and for them to self-discipline, if you will. And so there's, at this point, even though there's still chat, well, maybe we should have a policy, maybe we shouldn't, we're kind of leaving it to the common sense and ethical values of each division to guide them. And until something major happens, something negative happens, we probably won't try to, you know, force a policy down people's throats. Yeah,
and I guess that I picked up on some of that as well. There's definitely some demographic differences in terms of perceptions of social media and how to use it. And at one point, I think there was a recommendation, well, why don't we just get the GSA to figure it out for us and tell us how to work this stuff. So again, I think, I guess at this point, you know, if you have questions in terms of use of social media, and we've been having these conversations within the YouTube group, channel group for OTP as well, and have been in contact with both Phil Harris as well as Brent Slinkard from a marketing standpoint. So I don't really see anything changing in the near term on that, but let's do, to your point, Sharon, we will continue to do what makes most sense for the divisions. Couple of other things here. There was brief discussion of the open access book proposal, and Sharon talked about this previously. And Rick West is also developing his own book. Apparently, this is a separate initiative. I didn't realize that. But there is work among the executive board to try and align these efforts so that the members are aware of where they can contribute. I've submitted a proposal to Rick West for his book. This is basically an open access book on principles of instructional design. That would be a dynamic book that could be updated on a regular basis. I think it's a great project, and I hope to see us get more and more involved in these things, of course, without cutting into or jeopardizing our publications that we have through SAGE and so on. But I don't know if you had anything on that. I remember you mentioned this in our previous meeting, Sharon.
Yeah, we're just going to let this play out gradually. I mean, there are some very strong opinions in camps about open access versus the commercial products. So until the people who want to do the writing of these books actually come up with, some more concrete details about what it is they're generating, we'll just let it play out for now.
Yeah. And along the same lines, another item that Sharon mentioned in our previous meeting, and that is there is a privacy position paper. This is not a policy brief per se. It is a position paper or white paper. This has to do, and I can't remember the exact context, but I believe this has to do, Sharon, from your previous conversations, with the new changes in laws or government agency requirements relating to access to information in the internet. And what is the position of AECT as an education and communications technology organization, global organization, in terms of policy? The organization does have so this is a position paper that we've written. This is our view as an organization for what we see as the key tenets of a privacy within the internet. This has been approved by the board, and it's ready. It will be going to the membership for comment either before or in conjunction with the fall convention. And I don't know if you had anything to add to that by way of an update or not, Sharon.
No, that sums it up pretty clearly. We'll definitely be ready by the fall convention. It may not be ready during the summer. Okay. We want to clean up some of the legal language in there.
Okay. And I have just a couple of quick updates, announcements that came out. And one is that, and I was not aware of this, but apparently we do have a new website that is being built. Right now it's at approximately 75% completion. I have not seen it yet. There is planned to be able to provide a demo for the board at the summer leadership meeting. So that will be the first public preview, if you will, of the new AECT website. And excited, looking forward to that. Our website, as most of you know, is a little long in the tooth, a little bit outdated. But so it will be exciting to see what comes from that. And then finally, our flagship journal publication, ETR&D, celebrated its 65th anniversary in 2017. So I'm glad that I'm not as old as ETR&D yet, but I'm wish them well and wish them a happy birthday and another 65 years to go. So that's what I gleaned from sitting in for Sharon during the executive board meeting, and it's a job I'm not looking to take on permanently or full time. It gave me a tremendous appreciation for the value that Sharon adds to the division as our board representative. And once again, thank you very much for all of your service. This is the final year of your term, if I'm not mistaken, and then that will be taken over by Nancy.
That's correct. Yeah, after convention, Nancy is the new board rep, and I'm off.
All right. Well, you've done a stellar job, and I don't know how you keep track of everything because you got basically 20 people talking at once, and I have, as I said, I had no idea of half of what they were talking about. So it's better that someone understands, because I didn't. Something I do understand, though, is I can talk about OTP committee updates. I don't have any news from Nancy in terms of strategic initiatives. I mentioned that she will be attending leadership. For those of you who have an opportunity to make it to Jacksonville, you'll be able to see her there. I do have some updates from the ad hoc committees that we've been working on this year. The first one is the Digital Badging Micro-Credential Committee, and and Lisa and Kate are both on the call. They're both members of this committee. In addition to Lisa and Kate, this committee is chaired by myself and Dirk Eifenthaler. Brandy Brather-Liming is also a member, as well as Steve Velachika. And just a couple of quick updates as to where we are. We have been meeting. We've had a couple of different meetings. We've made some great progress. I think our most productive meeting to date was probably in April, where we had a highly collaborative working session where we were involving Rick West in getting his insights and best practices from what the TED division has done with badging. In addition to that, Dirk Eifenthaler, also presented an excellent primer for thinking about digital badges and micro-credentials. And this was in a webinar for the division on March 27th. If you did not have an opportunity to view that webinar, you can find a recording. Go out to YouTube and search the AECT-OTP YouTube channel. And there is a copy of the recording in its entirety. And if you go to the Facebook group page for OTP, you can also get a copy of Dirk's slides there. But it was great information, and it was very well received in terms of providing an overall perspective of what the implications and possibilities are for alternative credentialing in higher ed as well as industry. I mentioned that the committee met on April 4th. We were joined by Rick West of Brigham Young, who shared with us the key outcomes and criteria for the AECT TED Open Badges Endorsement Program, which is in place today. I don't know that they've actually endorsed any badge programs, but there is, we do have criteria in place, and there is a model that we have today. One of the things I guess that we've learned in my service in this committee, this is a fascinating topic. It's one that's been around. It's one that we really do need to try to get ahead of. But the more information I learn, it seems the more questions that I have or that are raised. And I can say that there's recognition, I think, or in consensus among this committee, that digital badges and micro-credentials are certainly a disruptive innovation. And it's also a highly complex topic with many moving parts, goals, and agencies involved. And it takes on a different flavor if you're talking about badges for higher ed, if you're talking about badges in professional organization, if you're talking about ongoing professional development. You know, one of the things that and I don't want to go on a tangent on this, but I'm on a list where edX, and the MOOC provider, and I get their updates all the time. And it's phenomenal to me, the quality of some of the professional development opportunities that are available, and they're all free. You pay $99 and you get a certificate that says that now you have a credential, a credential that sticks with you. I don't know. I can't tell you what the value of having an edX credential would be, or a certificate would be. But you know, there are. It just speaks to the diversity and the variability that we see in these types of initiatives. So I do think that this is something that we will continue to move forward with, and try to determine how this fits best with the members of our division, and certainly with the organization. I can also tell you that badging platforms, from the research that we've done, and we've looked at several of these, they are still evolving to address a range of issues, including validity, authenticity, granularity of badges, interoperability within different organizations, different standards bodies, flexibility and transferability of the badges. The work of this committee, we're kind of wrapping up for the summer here. We will continue to work asynchronously. We've got a shared drive space for collaboration that we are continuing to share insights and ideas with. We'll work through the summer, and we will produce a full report for the OTP board and our membership to be presented during the fall convention. So we will have a point of view and kind of a reference point for this. And we'll make also decisions on how best to continue the work of this committee. This was an ad hoc committee to provide some exploratory discovery into this topic as it relates to the division. I think that what we have learned is that this is something that does have value, and we will continue in some form, and there will be opportunities to participate. So,
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Has the research that the group's been doing included digital badges as an opportunity for the not-for-credit offerings at institutions of higher education? Most universities in particular offer professional development that's not necessarily for credit. It's not part of a degree program. So it can be like a one-off to an organization or a group of teachers coming in for professional development for some particular topic. Has that been part of the research as well, using the badges for that?
You know, Kate is raising her hand, and she's sort of my de facto SME on this. So, Kate, how would you answer that?
I think that the range is very broad on what this can be applied to and the scenarios that they're most suited for. Since our last digital badging meeting, I myself have earned another badge from EDUCAUSE. Mm-hmm. Check out my LinkedIn profile, you'll see, because that's sort of a really good example where you have the structure of what the competency is. I mean, that was key, wasn't it, Tim? Mm-hmm. That's the starting place, is what competency are you trying to validate or illustrate that this individual did or is able to do or demonstrate. So it's open in that it's digital for sure, but it's open because you can click on it. You can put it on your website, your blog, your LinkedIn, wherever you want. And people can click on it and say, oh, here's the criteria, here's the issuing agency, here's the expiry date. So, for whatever you had to do to earn that. So you can apply it in so many different situations, and I think that will be part of our challenge is maybe homing in on very specific instances on how to get something started, how to make it apply. I'm just really excited to be doing some more work on this because I have an actual application at work that I would like to get past just reading about it and finding a real world application where we can test this out. And it's not an academic credit program. It's more like a workplace training, demonstration of competencies in clinical researchers. And they want to be able to have this documented. And I think it's transferable across any institution that is doing clinical research. So I thought it's a good test subject.
Yeah, and you're in a great spot on this as well, Kate, because your focus is on professional competency development as opposed to academic credit.
Yes,
And Steve Volachka is not on the call now, but he's also been very vocal. I know in your program, Lisa, in terms of what does this mean for industry and how what kinds of services and opportunities can we provide for our students to take this directly into practice. So. Clearly, that OTP is in a position to provide leadership, and I have been very impressed and very humbled and honored by the group that we've had looking at this initiative, and I'm expecting great things going forward as well. All right, so that's all I have for in terms of an update from the Badges Committee. The other ad hoc committee that we've been working with that has also been doing some great work is the YouTube OTP Best Practices Channel Committee. And what we've done here is we've been looking at establishing a channel, a branded channel on YouTube for AECT-OTP division for sharing best practice videos for providing additional value and services to our members. The committee membership for the OTP Best Practices YouTube channel is Susan Jendon and Ashley MacArthur as co-chairs. Lisa Giacomo and myself and Brandon Meekum are also members of this committee. And I previously stated that we have had a branded channel on YouTube for a couple of months now. You can go out and you can search for it, AECT-OTP if you haven't. The videos that are out there so far have been the recordings from the member meetings. This one today will be out there, as well as recordings from the webinars that we've had. We are getting some traction. We do have some presence. We are still working on a draft set of guidelines and a rubric. And I think at this point, I'll turn it over to Susan to provide a little bit more detailed update in what you see as next steps.
Well, hello, folks. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Well, I'm happy to be here. Let me just say that it's very informative, all these things going on. I see some similarities in what we're doing with some of the other things you have spoken about, Tim, in that we have we've created some documents. We've got a rubric and another document that explains the process of applying. So I've got some of these on the screen, but I'm not going to open them up. Yeah, the guidelines and what we're going to send out to folks. And we have spent some time with very helpful committee members, including Lisa and Tim, who are here. And we are just right now trying to define what these documents are. So it's been a working meetings. And where we are now is we want to know what is the bottom line in terms of AECT requirements that we need to follow, especially in terms of accessibility. That's kind of where we are now. Mm-hmm. We have people exploring that. First of all, what are the format guidelines we have to follow because of YouTube, but also are there requirements, and also in terms of accessibility. Those are the considerations. What can we do on YouTube, and what are the bottom line must do things as defined by AECT and even OTP? Are there things like that? So we need to know that. And so that's something I'm throwing out there. And what Tim had said was that there really aren't established guidelines with regard to social media, but is there anything that we must comply with in terms of ADA? So we need to find that out. And I'm not sure who can answer that question. Beyond that, we're going to continue working on the rubric and the guidelines. And I see us also coming up with something so that we can deliver it to the board in the fall. And that's really the goal. So there are some other things we want to discuss once we're done with that, which I haven't even brought up yet, and those are options. What is the purpose in terms of research, market pitches, things like that? We're not even there yet. Prior use, distribution, other considerations. So right now we just want to get this done. And my question is, what can we find out about AECT requirements for ADA? So does anybody have any information or suggestions? Please share.
Hi, Susan. I was most interested in ADA requirements, specifically closed captioning. I think I brought it up at another meeting, only because it was affecting us directly at our university. And what I've come to know so far, and anyone feel free to correct me, but that the federal requirements make it mandatory for state schools or state funded, there's kind of like if you're receiving state funding, all this sort of thing. So I'm not clear if us as the ACT, being once again a volunteer private organization,
right,
are required. But the other side of it is we should, just because it's the right thing to do, right, and we're leaders in this area. So that was kind of an aside that I thought, if we're going to test out these things anywhere, it might as well be amongst colleagues.
Yeah, we've had an interesting experience at Mason with closed captioning. Closed captioning, the challenge with closed captioning, of course, is depending on what software you use to do the closed captioning, you need experts to actually do it, number one. Number two, if your video is an interactive video, closed captioning just blows the whole thing up.
I know.
So our workaround has been to provide the verbatim scripts of the videos so that someone who's hard of hearing can just open the PDF and read along, or people who have screen readers are using it anyway. So that has been our workaround in lieu of closed captioning. And even if you don't have an interactive video, most of the closed captioning software produces pretty ugly text, to be honest with you, that blocks up the screen. So, and some of the YouTube videos, what they're doing is instead of closed captioning on the screen, they're just putting the script at the bottom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've seen that as well.
We are exploring all the options. I think minimally we would provide a script, and we are devising a point system with more points for more accessibility, I think.
Right.
And then that's part of the rubric, and depending on how many points that submission has achieved, they will be accepted for this. So if anybody else has anything else that they want to send, or any particular, whatever, please feel free to contact myself or Ashley MacArthur in the future. And that's really it. We're working
Right.
along, and those are some of the points.
So if anyone wants to submit a video on accessibility, that would be welcome, is what you're saying. And
Yeah.
Kate, I so appreciate your comments. We're kind of in the same boat. I mean, on the one hand, it's compliance, for state funding, but on the other hand, it really starts to look at universal design for learning, ethically and from an efficacy standpoint, what can we do to better serve our members and diverse populations that perhaps have been historically underserved. So great work, Susan, and I appreciate the leadership that you and Ashley have brought to this effort, and we'll continue to see great things from as a result, I'm sure. So thanks once again.
Thank you for your confidence.
Jenny Bauman has not, I don't believe, is on this call. So but those of you who are frequent visitors to the Facebook group page for OTP have no doubt seen the announcement that she's put. Please pass this on to your graduate students. I think who would be most impacted by this is that the OTP division will have a scholarship to cover part of the cost for fall convention if this is something they can benefit from. There is an application. It's a PDF on the Facebook group page. And the application was posted by Jenny on June 16th. My understanding is that the submissions should be in by July 12th. And the winners will be announced by July 24th. So in conjunction with the summer leadership. And Nancy Hastings just mentioned to me earlier this morning that we do have several applicants that have already applied. So it's a great opportunity. Basically, it's registration costs. And as you look at that, there are other opportunities to get involved. There are your students can volunteer and earn scholarships and internships, and there's just one of many ways, I guess, to promote your AECT as a organization for your students. And OTP has offered this scholarship for a couple of years now. Along with that, just some updates. I don't have any new news for convention planning. For those of you who have been involved in committee work and convention planning previously, you'll know that we're sort of in the lull right now. Most of the heavy lifting has been done, and we're sort of in a holding pattern as details are finalized. But what I did share, and this was from the May meeting, we did pretty good as a division in terms of our convention presence. We actually have 10 hours of programming for conference time, which is higher than we've had for past conferences. and it's a recognition, I think, of the diversity represented in the OTP division. And right now, based on the submissions that we've received, the programming kind of shakes out to look like we'll have 4 panel discussions, 12 concurrent sessions, 10 round tables, and 4 poster sessions. And all of this will be detailed in the program. So special thanks to all of you and your students and your colleagues who have submitted proposals, and congratulations once again to those who will be presenting in the OTP program at the Fall Convention this year. I think the last topic that I have is just an update on webinars. This has been a really successful webinar series for OTP division for 2016-2017. We've had a total of 4 webinars, and those were listed. We had Dirk in March and Ashley MacArthur in April. I'm sorry, I said 4 webinars. 3 webinars is what we targeted for. And then Lisa just presented with her group on June 7th with Rapid E-Learning to support workforce learning. All of the webinars have been very professionally done, very comprehensive, a lot of research, a lot of great information in there. And I'm happy to say that all of that information is available to our membership via the OTP YouTube channel once again. So special thanks to all of our presenters, including Dirk, Ashley, and Lisa, for their support of the division and valuable contributions in this webinar series. And make sure that you go on YouTube if you haven't seen the presentations, or we also have links and slides that will be available that are available today via the Facebook group page for OTP. So we have you can access these resources, and please use them. And if they help you, drop a note to the presenters and just show your appreciation in that way. And let me know if you are interested, or you know of anyone who's interested. This concludes our scheduled webinars in this series for this season. That doesn't say that we can't add new ones, add additional sessions if we have interest. And of course, it's not too early to be thinking about 2018 in the webinar series. So I think that this has worked out very well, and it's something that we will continue. That's basically everything that I have by way of agenda. This is the part where we have open items. If there are items that you'd like to have included in the record or in the recording, please feel free to jump in. If you what's on your mind in terms of division, anything that we need to be looking at, or I think we're all kind of busy right now is the impression that I get. So with that, I mentioned this is the last scheduled membership meeting before the National Convention. We typically do not meet during the summer, and at this point, I'm not anticipating any meetings in September, though if that changes, we will certainly communicate that. And I would just say to you, I appreciate your participation and your collaboration in the division, and the great work that you all do back in your member institutions and organizations as well. And with that, have a great summer.
And thank you for your leadership, Tim.
Okay, well, this is my last tour in terms of running the division meetings, but it's been a great experience for me, and I appreciate everyone's support. All right, well take care.
Absolutely.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Wonderful summer. We'll see you at the convention.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.